can we manage the money that you're spending and make every dollar you spend as effective as possible? And when you do that and you're successful at it, the fleets love you for it. They can't get enough of it.
Welcome to Diesel Stories, where we sit down with professionals across the industry to hear about their journey. I'm Jacob Finley, along with Chris O'Brien. Today we're talking with Troy Willich, CEO and co-founder at TDI Fleet Services. Hey, Troy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And Chris is here as well. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jacob. Troy, how you doing?
Good.
So, Troy, we have known each other for, I'm trying to think, I think it's 5.5 years now that it's been.
Yeah, I think almost since 2015.
2015.
September, October.
Yeah, maybe late August. Maybe it was early September. Can't remember. But you were our first customer. You actually took a chance on us.
We were.
Yeah. It was.
and you us.
I don't know about that. I think it was a very one-sided thing as far as chances being taken. But yeah, I remember when we first started, I was just calling shops and trying to get them to let me demo them. And somehow I got through your Dragon Slayer, right? Or whoever it is, right? That doesn't allow calls to come through. Somehow I got through, talked to you, and you agreed to do a demo, and that was lucky. And then showed you the demo, and things just worked out. It was very fortuitous. It was about probably 2 weeks after we started selling was when we spoke, I believe, or at least when we did the demo. And It was another, I think it was another 3 months before I closed a second customer, essentially. So in a lot of ways, you guys were like our pilot shop, because you gave us some pretty good feedback about, at the time we didn't support QuickBooks Desktop, and you guys switched to QuickBooks Online to accommodate. I don't know if you remember that. I'm sure Steve does. And we also didn't offer an inventory module, and you guys had inventory, and the shop where we kind of built it didn't track inventory. So that was a surprise, but maybe we can go, Troy, back, back in time, like before we met. What I wanted to talk about was just how you got into the industry. What is your background? Did you grow up in this? At what point did you enter, and how did you get to the point where you're owning your own shop?
Well, that's a lot. I was not born into this, but I was a mechanic in the Army and in the National Guard. And I just needed a good job. And a guy that I was in the Guard with told me to come out to SFE Transportation in Lancaster, Texas, and train to be a reefer tech. So I did that, and I was really good at it. And after a couple years of working for them and doing side work, I got so busy on my side work that I just had to make a decision. Was I going to work for a fleet or work for myself? So in 1997, I went into transport refrigeration service on my own business in 97. So, and then from there, reefer work, you struggle every winter. And so Steve had come to work for me, and right around 2001, we decided to get into the trailer repair business on the trailer side. And so right when 9/11 happened, actually the week of September 9/11, we bought a trailer shop. We actually had to delay the purchase of it because of 9/11. But Steve and I bought it together, and we started, doing the trailer work too with that small business that we acquired in 2001.
Was that in Fort Worth?
Yeah, it was. It was actually the oldest trailer shop in Fort Worth, and the guy who owned it was the founder's son, and he was quite old himself, and he was tired of running the shop, and we were young and full of vigor, and we took to it really good, and our customers we had for the reefer work were happy about it, and so much that a few years after that, they pressed us into doing truck work, and that's how we expanded into the truck side.
Interesting. So you were a trailer tech. You were never a truck tech yourself, or were you in the Army?
I did truck. In the Army, I worked on heavy construction equipment, but really mostly trucks, just tractors and deuce and a half, mostly trucks. So actually getting out of that, I realized I didn't want to be a truck mechanic. But I got into the reefer work on the transport refrigeration units. And so that's my background, is a refrigeration technician.
Gotcha. And
Steve as well. Yeah.
Steve's your partner. He was a refrigeration tech too. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So that's late nights. I imagine that's you being from private fleet, refrigeration. That was the primary units that we had. A Carrier, we had some Thermo King. So that's late night stuff, yard checks, batteries, compressor rebuilds. Those can be difficult situations, right? Weekends and nights, keeping reefers going.
Absolutely. And you could never say no to a customer.
Right.
So we averaged 80 to 100 hours a week a piece.
Wow.
And I know we're scheduled every other Sunday off, every other night on call. And we kept that up for about 6 years. So,
wow.
And I actually didn't come off the service truck till 2004. Steve came off when we bought the trailer shop in 01, but I still was a mobile service tech till 04.
Wow.
Now, did you have private fleets that you oversaw, or was it just emergency roadside repair?
Mostly all private fleets. We did very little roadside repair where somebody we did know called us, and that's still true today.
Any brand, or were you like a TK specialist, or it didn't matter which brand?
No, I was factory trained for Carriers.
Okay.
But I had a lot of the local classes for Thermo King, and so I preferred the Thermo King units, but we worked on everything, and we still do. We still work on both brands.
Hey, Troy, I'm curious, why do you think it was better? Why did you guys feel like it was better for you to do fleet work versus like a breakdown service, serving customers you didn't know? Like, what's kind of the advantages there?
It seemed like, for once, the fleet service is, the main point is it's just repeat business. It's a longer term relationship. It's more stable. So it's stuff you do over and over for them. And so you almost know what you're going to be doing. You can plan it. Roadside work, you're really just waiting for someone's bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're on the side of the road sometimes, which is not a good place to be.
Yeah, it's dangerous, especially in Fort Worth, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys see any? So that pileup in Fort Worth was horrific. Yeah. Were you guys involved with that at all, like in the aftermath?
No, we weren't, but I will tell you it was on the freeway right by our shop on the express lanes, but we weren't involved in it, and none of our employees were. We were pretty much shut down that week. So we just ran a little bit of mobile calls, and we only let the senior techs drive. The junior techs, the young guys, we didn't let them get in the trucks. Because
people knew there was ice on the road? Like that wasn't a surprise?
Oh, yeah. It was. No, yeah, that was, and those people that got in that pileup, I can't imagine how bad that was for them. And that on that express lane, there's no shoulders. You're blocked in with concrete barricades.
Right.
So that's why that pileup was so bad.
Yeah.
So on the fleet work, you got to think that doing and we could look more into the data on this. This would be a good question to answer, but doing work for fleets, it's predictable. You do it over and over again. It's repeat business, more stable, but you got to think it also helps make the techs more efficient because they almost get to know the vehicles, right? Like the trucks and trailers. Yeah,
exactly. And if fleets have a common vehicle, they're running the same kind of truck or the same kind of trailer. So then the breakdowns and malfunctions often repeat, and the tech, can get to them more efficiently because they've seen it before.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a rule or expectation with your customers that you don't want them taking the trucks elsewhere as long as they're in town? Is that kind of the part of the deal?
No, we don't require that of any customer. I feel like if you're doing a really good job, they're going to want to bring that to you. And that we find that with our customers that they really just, we grow into more work with them just by being real transparent and being honest and always standing behind what you do.
Right. Yeah.
Are you also doing like the DOT inspections? You have certified techs that are doing that and maintaining some of the certifications required to operate the commercial vehicles, or is it mostly repair?
No, we do federal DOTs. We have 19 certified DOT inspectors. And then we also do in Texas, you have a commercial state safety inspection that commercial vehicles are required to have. And we also do those. I think we have about 5 individuals that are licensed to do the state commercial inspections.
Do you think that that's a differentiator or a cornerstone item to landing fleets, or like a minimum requirement to be in, servicing private fleets?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do, because you don't qualify to do a federal FHWA inspection unless you're brake certified. And I think that's the minimum. Any shop working on commercial vehicles should meet those minimum standards. And I think fleets expect you to be able to perform those inspections. Yeah, and you certainly don't want your fleet going somewhere else for that inspection.
Right.
Definitely.
And you guys are finding other issues from time to time during those inspections, right?
Oh, constantly. Even items that probably, like in Texas, the Texas commercial inspection is really easy to pass, but it's got some odd items that are not in the federal inspection. So when you do those inspections, a lot of times you can find items that aren't, necessarily going to take equipment out of service, but the customer would want to know about that. Maybe it's cosmetic or just a driver comfort issue, but they would want to take care of that. So we find, it's hard not to find things on any vehicle, even brand new trucks.
Yeah. It seems like there's so many shops that don't understand that. They see themselves as a repair shop and that's pretty much it. Like they'll do the diag on whatever they need to, but they're not doing a kind of a basic inspection. Every time a truck comes in, you guys are looking at it, looking it over, right? To double check, even if it's not a DOT or state safety inspection.
Absolutely. And in Full Bay with your software, we built a check-in inspection, and it's vehicle specific, and we assign it to whenever you put a vehicle into the software, it will assign that particular check-in and inspection. And it could be a short, 7-item list, or, I think there's a half a dozen or more, or maybe a dozen or more for tractors that we check regardless. It doesn't matter why you brought the equipment to us. If you asked us to, check your tire pressure, the tech is obligated to go through this checklist, and we charge for it.
Yeah. It's a moneymaker.
It's something and it's a moneymaker, and it's also looking out for your customer. Yeah. A lot of times drivers are not being verbal or telling their fleet operators what's wrong with their trucks. So you might be the only set of eyes they have.
Right. I think that's another thing a lot of shops don't understand is that the fleets appreciate you finding stuff. It's not, the pessimistic way to look at it is, oh, you're just trying to upsell me and so forth. But the reality on the ground is that they want to keep these trucks up and running. They don't want to get an out of service violation, and they want to know as much as they can. So it's actually a really nice service to do these inspections and give them the option. They don't have to say yes, but a lot of times they will.
It's really rare that a customer gets upset over us doing that inspection. It's
yeah. And
sometimes a lot of times they're grateful, and it kind of presses them because those check-in inspections, it's all safety related. So a lot of times like, oh, I didn't even know, thank you for doing that. So, and it forces that tech into a routine, and they do and we check the stuff before and after the job on every job.
Perfect.
And so, and it forces them, they have their checklist that we build in Full Bay, and it forces them to do that. And it levels us up in the industry and makes us a better shop.
Yeah, Troy, you guys are such a good example of doing things the right way. You totally, I think on so many things, we just see it the same way. It's awesome. You've taught us a lot too. Mm-hmm. So, Chris, I totally interrupted you earlier. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, for just running a private fleet, I agree a lot with what you're saying, Jacob, and you, Troy. One of the things that we used to look at, I imagine it still prevails to this day, is we really cared about uptime. And every now and again, we'd get a trailer or a unit out of service because somebody skipped a DOT inspection or skipped a routine inspection. And that was just one of our things. Anything we could do to ensure that the trucks were rolling, because for us, they were making us money. And every time they weren't rolling, we were losing money, and we were renting equipment, and it just started causing other issues. And I wondered if you're seeing that even to this day, that the uptime is the most important and it's tied to the revenue of their business, more so than the ancillary repairs.
It is. Some of these larger fleets and they're getting so much data back through their own maintenance software or through the analytics from their vehicles and their tracking software. And they understand, that if a trailer sat for 2 days or a truck is down, it's even worse with trucks, because not only are you have a tractor down, but you may have a driver sitting somewhere that you're compensating. So I think it's even more so today than it was years ago, just because the data is there and you can push that data to these fleet operators and they understand, that time is money. And when you're unscheduled, when you're off, out of service unscheduled, it's costing you.
Definitely. I think one of the things that we would do just on reefers, because we would have priming events, we had driver programs to make sure that, if we would actually measure you if we had to call a mechanic out to prime your reefer unit because you didn't top it off. So we had a lot of process in there. And then we were getting down to, I wanted to buy batteries every 18 months. It was either spec me a better battery or I want a brand new battery every 18 months, because it was like clockwork. There's just every 1,000 hours that compressor was down. Every 18 months, we started having battery issues. So I imagine all that stuff still prevails, and you guys are looking for those trends to try to get in front of that as part of those preventative maintenance programs.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking about reefer units. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. And, and a lot of that is who's doing your service, and are they providing you the best product? Are they recommending, the best maintenance intervals? And are they getting in front of that equipment on a scheduled time to prevent all that? Because the battery, should last you 5-6 years.
Yeah,
not 18
exactly.
months.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Troy, how hard is it to get the training on those reefer units? Because I've heard that unless you're a dealer, there's a lot of stuff that you either have to figure out on your own or you just can't offer.
It's impossible for an independent shop to get training, and they'll never get factory training because the dealership has to sign off on it. So the dealerships and big private fleets are the only ones getting, any kind of factory training. I do know there are some aftermarket schools, like diesel tech schools that offer some transport refrigeration training, and I've gone to a few and done some talks with the students over it, but there's very little training. So most of the techs we see, we hire away from dealerships, and or you have to train them yourself. You have to sit down and how much it takes 5 years to train a good reefer tech.
And is that a problem?
From
are there more reefer units out there than can be reasonably serviced by the dealers, who are like the only ones with this info?
Yeah, there is. And there's a lot of, Ryder and Penske's, they get the training, and there's a lot of fleet maintenance organizations like them that are doing this, and like us, that are doing this maintenance and these repairs. But there's also probably more bad service going on out there than good. So, but the dealers and the manufacturers do a lot of guaranteed maintenance. So these big mega fleets, they'll buy a reefer unit and they'll get 4 or 5 years of service and maintenance with it.
It's hard to turn down.
Yeah.
But the OEMs on the reefers, it sounds like they could maybe get a little more creative on providing training and not just restricting it to the dealers. If they really want their units to get maintained long term, because they can't expect people to, get a brand new unit after 5 years and just throw it in the garbage when the warranty period expires, right? Or just go to dealers. It seems unreasonable.
Not to speak ill of an industry, but that is my perspective. That is completely their position, is that you should not go to anyone but them. And so it's difficult. And if you talk to a lot of fleets, that refrigerated fleets, I believe they would concur, that they'll find shops like us that are really good at it. But for the most part, if they're traveling around the country, the only place to get good service where they're going to stand behind the work is the dealerships. And the dealerships, they have literature they won't even give. You couldn't even buy, books and some of these service manuals that aren't even available. I couldn't even go in there and buy these books.
It's funny. It reminds me of I remember talking to a shop owner who services off-road equipment, and I think he was joking, but I think he was also kind of serious. He said, if the cat dealer in my town burned down, I would run into the building and try to find the service manuals or something, because you just can't get them. He was an aftermarket dealer. So same kind of concept. Yeah. You have to bargain and trade and go to some larger fleets to get books. And so, that's usually how we've been getting them, is these fleets that get signed off and their techs get to go to the factory schools. We get, service books for them. If we go in and service a big, not Target, but somebody like Target, they have a big reefer fleet and they have a new unit out that we haven't seen. We get the literature from them. So we can, learn what's new on that reefer unit. Just try to make it work. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's to your point, you're like, when you're buying several $1 million worth of, Carrier units, we spec'd an entire fleet with Carrier at one point. And you're right. We had factory reps coming out, training our shop, training extended shop techs, et cetera. So a lot of what you're saying, I can completely relate to. It's locked up, and they really wanted the contract. So unless you recruited their techs, you weren't getting the talent. You had to have a maintenance agreement, or you negotiated it right into your contract with a backup vendor. So
hey, Troy,
very interesting.
Hey, Troy, how hard was it? Did you say 2004 or 2006 was when you stopped working the service truck?
2004.
2004. How did that happen? Steve was already in the office. Steve, your partner. How did that come about? I was spending
more time on the phone. Yeah, I'd catch myself out doing reefer work, and I was just on the phone more, and I couldn't get things done. I was trying to solve problems. I think at that time we probably had maybe about 12 technicians, and Steve and I were, we were the parts department. We were the pickup and delivery equipment department, and we ran the shop. We were payroll. We did all the back office. It was just us two. So it got to a point where he needed help, or we were going to have to hire somebody to come into the shop. So it was, it was also hard to give up. I had been on the truck and I enjoyed doing that. And it was, it was kind of a love-hate kind of deal where I didn't want to get off the truck. I still have my old service truck too. It's a 99 model service truck. We still have it.
Someone else is driving it.
No, it's a yard truck now. It won't make it going down the road, but we still have it.
Were you the best reefer tech at the time you stepped down?
I'm real good. I don't know. There's probably some guys out there that are more update on current products, current reefer units, but I still solve a lot of problems for our reefer techs and customers, help them troubleshoot. And I still build the compressors. I'll build the Carrier compressors in my home shop in Thermo King. We build all our own compressors for our customers, and I still build them myself.
Really? I heard Steve, I was talking to Steve a while back about setting up some parts. I didn't realize it was you. I thought you were subbing that out, but you're actually doing the rebuilds yourself. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine cost effective with your skill set. That can be fairly lucrative if you're the reman. You're basically remanufacturing your own parts to resell. So you've cut out all the middlemen, and you're just sourcing your parts and cleaning up. I imagine you're cleaning up the cylinders and putting it back together.
Yeah, Carrier is like an engine. Thermo Kings, you can do everything new. So if you've got a good core and you just buy everything brand new and make sure the oil pump and everything is the right specs on that, but you can make them new. Carriers you do have to bore those out, oversize the cylinders, and line bore the main bearings on the crank. But so few people are doing it. Thermo King, they don't sell rebuild parts to the dealerships anymore, so the dealerships don't build. So you have to buy factory remans from both brands. So there's only a handful of people in the whole country building them. So we don't have any problem selling them, but I don't build too many. I just do them for our customers. We don't sell them out to people. We only sell them to customers and install them.
So it's one of the benefits
ourselves.
of being one of your customers. You get a hand-built compressor
by the owner. And we can save them a ton of money.
It's a ton of money. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, you have a process there that could actually grow, right? Because your skill set is very, very hard to find. I mean, even back in you have to put the brakes on, and even building motors, because no one's building these engines especially these tier 4 motors, the low emissions engines on these reefer units. Nobody wants to rebuild them because you have to get them recertified. And so it's easier to buy a factory rebuilt that's already gone through the certification process to put in your reefer unit. So now, we build a lot of motors. You're hearing back in the day, and this is in the heyday of 2006. Fuel prices were soaring. The economy was booming. We were starting to contemplate, we started speccing Carrier units with electric backup, so we could plug them into the dock, and it wasn't even cost effective. The amount of power we were going to have to pull new power lines off the grid to the campus and rewire the building. And I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to put this infrastructure in, and then fuel prices went down because the number of years to pay it back was too great. We got Tesla and all these other brands out there with electrification on the trucks. Has that technology advanced in reefer units where electrification is more realistic and there's different power sources?
I haven't seen it in any publications. Electric standby has been around forever, and you find it on tons of local fleets, especially dairy fleets, like Oak Farms Dairy, Borden's, and people that load their equipment. They sit overnight. The route trucks, pizza trucks. We have several customers that pizza trucks that are the cold plate trucks that are electric only, and they absorption plates. So I know they're doing some natural gas, and Thermo King's played around with the carbon dioxide powered units that uses that carbon dioxide, and as it off gases, it powers a motor that runs the fan, and then the carbon dioxide goes through a coil and absorbs the heat out of the cargo area. But I haven't seen any something like Tesla on a reefer unit that would be all electric. I haven't seen any yet. It's feasible, I guess. It takes about 25 to 40 horsepower to run, like a Carrier. Carrier's like a lot of horsepower. So they do have all electric though. Carrier does have an all electric unit that has the engine runs a generator that runs, like an 060 all electric compressor.
Really? So it's a diesel electric hybrid, basically like trains.
Yeah, it runs on diesel, but then the engine is just running that generator. And so you have a fully hermetic or a semi-hermetic compressor, which lasts a lot longer than, an engine-driven compressor.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's a quote from Bill Gates floating around where he makes the case that for light and medium duty vehicles, electric can make sense just from the physics of it, though, it doesn't really work for heavy duty and any long haul applications because of the way that the battery, so on and so forth. And so the current thinking is that diesel electric hybrids would be if there were electric motors driving like long haul and heavy duty applications, that they would be driven. The electricity would be produced by a diesel engine. And so it's interesting that's there in the reefer unit. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Well, Frito-Lay ran down here in Texas. They ran a bunch of electric vehicles, and I can't remember the brand, but they were from Europe, like Eastern Europe. They were like one of those Eastern Bloc countries,
Scania or something.
And we helped them pull them out of service because you couldn't get parts for them. And so as they would break down, we would disassemble them and catalog the parts for them so they could keep the fleet going. But I think they're down to not having any these days.
Interesting. It's like Iran with the F-14 fleet. You know about that?
But without the government subsidies, I don't think fleets can afford to run these electric vehicles.
Yeah, at some point, they say at some point we will hit the tipping point where it does make economic sense, or maybe massive government mandate shoves the tipping point forward. We'll see.
When they push fuel up, like Chris said, when they were going to spend $200,000 to bring electrical infrastructure in so they could run their reefer fleet on electricity while their equipment was parked, they'll force us to.
Yeah. Right. And Chris, what was the thing like if somebody forgets to disconnect one of those umbilicals?
It was like 480 power.
It hits the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah, that's some serious power. That is some serious power. And so, like a guy pulling, it's going to happen. I mean, we used to do it with cold plate trucks. I was driving a cold plate truck in the early 90s, delivering ice cream. And I don't know, it seemed like once a month, twice a month, some guy pull out, cords hanging off his truck as he's driving down the road. But that was just standard power. And we were really concerned too that you start laying 480 out on a dock with a cable tethered to your reefer and your guy's not doing his pre-trip, it's not disconnected, live wire on the ground in the rain, huge safety concerns.
And that's a lot of wire. I mean, if you're bringing it from the back of the trailer to the front, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of cable.
We even spec some equipment to have the pigtail at the back of the trailer just to shorten the run. So we were going all in. We had bought a pinch of trailers to do that. And it was safety item after safety item, infrastructure after infrastructure. We had a 50-year-old building at the time. And I mean, you just can't use the infrastructure in your building when you're running that kind of power and, 100 trailers parked indoors and stuff like that. It starts to compound quick. But I think it's going to still continue to come around. It's interesting to hear cold plates are still going. And I don't even know, the servicing of those is probably more likely and more scalable, that method for short haul. But I would agree with you, Jacob, too, that and the quotes from Bill Gates that this is going to be a tough thing to crack going, all 50 states. And with 80, you'd have to raise the 80,000 pound limit and start to really adjust some of these payload issues. Otherwise, where are you going to haul styrofoam containers with your electric truck? Because that's about all you'll get.
You're hauling batteries around. Yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I really think long term the solution is hydrogen. So you're still in a combustion type engine and a lot of portability on power, and you refueling instead of recharging, sitting for hours to recharge something. So my opinion is that the future in energy for transportation is in hydrogen.
Right. That's the other side of it. Either a diesel electric hybrid or a hydrogen fuel cell, which is generates electricity.
No emissions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just there's no emission. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my old college roommates is helping run one of those companies. We'll see if it becomes the leader. One of the big challenges is building out a hydrogen fuel network, right? Because you're going to run out of hydrogen, in the middle of Kansas, and you need to be able to refill. And currently you can't, you can't just pull up on a major intersection and find hydrogen or compressed hydrogen or whatever you're going to do. So they got to build that out.
No, you have to have water. I mean, they have to have they can do it, but I think that on the scale to put it in a vehicle they're not there, but it's where it's just water. You separate the hydrogen out of the water.
Yeah. I guess it takes a ton of energy to do that separation. And that's what, when the hydrogen and oxygen atoms recombined, you've got that's what generates the force of that reaction generates the electricity coming back in. So to get them separated in the first place, I guess that's one of the challenges too, just how much energy it takes to reduce the hydrogen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. A lot of smart people working on it.
Smarter than me.
Smarter than all of us, huh? Troy, circling back to these fleet programs, I always thought it's fascinating. Like a lot of folks ask us, how do you get this thing started? How does a program like that get put together? And I can't tell if it's just experience or maybe they're starting in the industry, but you guys have like a process that you go through where you just don't fire up a deal and cut them the best. You got the cheapest prices around, so you land a fleet. You actually put programs together, and in some cases you charge them to run the program, and it comes with services. Like, how does all that kind of come together? How do you guys like pull that together? Does somebody help you do that, or did you guys invent a process for setting those kind of deals up?
I think it just kind of over the 25, 26 years we've been doing this, it is what's better. It's the best method, and it's like the truth in maintenance, and you really can't escape it. And so it's not hard to, if you can prove it, you can sell it. So with Full Bay, it's really easy to prove the effectiveness of a program, because we can show a new fleet what we're doing for an existing fleet, and we can redact the customer's name and stuff. But if you can prove the effectiveness of it, it's not a hard sell. And so, and I will tell you, the customers that resist that, we back away from those customers. They're not an ideal customer to have. I don't know that we would say we wouldn't help them, but we don't pursue, that type of customer that's not really committed to good fleet maintenance and committed to running a real safe fleet. And
yeah, because they don't necessarily understand their own best interests, and that makes it tough to hash out a kind of a win-win arrangement with them when they don't understand what a win is for them.
And some of them are so stubborn, you'll never change their mind. And it usually takes a catastrophic event to get those sorts of fleet managers on board, with a strategic plan to manage that maintenance. Chris, that's how we approach it, is management, not really, hey, how often can we get in there and charge you for a PM, and can we get you to approve all these other repairs? It's from the perspective is, can we manage the money that you're spending and make every dollar you spend as effective as possible? And when you do that and you're successful at it, the fleets love you for it. I mean, they can't get enough of it. We just had an international fleet ask us to take care of all their equipment in the state of Texas.
That's awesome.
And we sell them the managed maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say managed maintenance, like you're taking on the life cycle. Like you're saying, okay, I'm going to set up your intervals per the spec of that particular equipment or that manufacturer. We're going to ensure that, we change the oil at the right times. We doing dry services, inspections. Like you're just covering it, so they don't even have to worry about it. It's turnkey. Trucks will run, and we'll hold an uptime level per se. Is that how you approach it?
Exactly. Exactly. And so it takes a lot of effort, to do that, but not like a broken record, but with Full Bay, that tool has made it so much easier for us to stay on top of the data, to communicate with the customer, for the customer to respond back to us. And so it's no longer like this this humongous task of going through paperwork and tracking fleets on a whiteboard, or or begging them to work on something. A lot of the fleets, we can message them, and they message the driver, and they bring the equipment into us, or we do their PM reports every month and sit down with them. And we not only go off of manufacturers' recommended maintenance, but we interview the customer, and what are their plans for that equipment? What's their true trade cycle? How are they going to use it? Customers that are going to drive a truck for 750,000 miles are different than customers that are going to go 400,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So their expectations are different. Those customers are.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And Troy, the point about some fleets don't get it, there's a majority of the fleets are smaller. I can't remember the number, but a huge chunk of them have 10 or fewer units, and they don't, or maybe 20 or fewer, they don't have the expertise in-house to pay attention to fleet management, at least to the kind of the preventive maintenance plan, so on and so forth, even though they're required to by the DOT. And a shop offering this service to do it for the fleet just makes so much sense. But I hear you. They may not even realize that that's a priority. I mean, because in their defense, a lot of them are former drivers who felt like they could make a run at it on their own and start buying units, and they're running a business that's working. But until the law of large numbers kicks in and something catastrophic happens, they may not realize the advantages of doing this.
Exactly. And exactly, they're not much different than me back in 2004 when I was trying to run a trailer shop and from a service truck. You get overwhelmed, or you're tired, and I'll check that tomorrow, and you never get around to it. So if you have a company like TDI Fleet, or people are similar to us that are willing to track that for you, manage you, not just really manage it for you, but not just remind you, but to help you manage that. Anybody can tell you, hey, you need to change your oil every 35,000 miles, or we're running this oil, we're going to go 50,000. You need somebody more, they need more than just somebody going, hey, it's time to change the oil. They need somebody to recommend better maintenance practices, different types of tires, or a different kind of oil for you, or, look at, what aftermarket stuff would suit you better, for your mission.
If you're talking to like you in 1997, right, you're just starting out, you're talking to somebody whose shop is doing mostly just waiting for calls to come in, and is more kind of reactive than proactive, but has technicians, is in a decent city that's got plenty of fleets. What would you say to somebody like that, somebody that was teachable, and you had a chance to talk to them? What would you say to that shop owner?
So they were just they're running like mobile breakdowns, and
yeah, or not even mobile, maybe just waiting for stuff to come in the door.
Oh, I think I would recommend, if they don't like selling, I would recommend them, getting somebody in to do marketing for them. I know we wouldn't survive without sales and marketing. We wouldn't be able to, we just wouldn't keep busy. I would recommend, finding a really good salesperson that can also be an account manager, to help maintain those relationships, go out and find those relationships for you. And, finding that person, that fleet that you can help them move forward and grow with them, would always benefit you. And then that person, if you're a mechanic like I was and started a company, I can go out and sell and call on customers, but it really wasn't where my passion was. So we went out and found people that was their passion. They like to go out and cold call, and they like to manage those accounts and help maintain those the PMs and help track all that stuff for us. So I think for a small shop that's just getting emergency work and they're trying to grow, I think a lot of people underestimate the power of effective sales force, marketing.
And that sales force is selling what?
They've got to sell that service package, to keep you in compliance and to keep you from unscheduled breakdowns. If I can, it's a goal of ours to not have our customers not to have flat tires. That's one of our main goals. And, if you're keeping that customer from having to stop on a route, or, if they're long haul, having to go into a foreign shop in another city, and then they're coming to you for everything, and you're preventing those headaches, very expensive road calls for them. That's what you have to sell. And you can't do that without getting in front of that equipment on a regular basis and then managing what you're fixing, because you can easily outspend what that customer can afford with you. And I think maybe that's a problem with a lot of small fleets, is they would look at a service like ours and they're like, oh, I can't afford that. Because a lot of shops refuse to manage, what they're selling to that fleet.
As in and by manage, are you talking about making sure to get authorization for repairs, or the shop's not managing it properly?
Yeah. And not just expecting the customer to do everything you've recommended, but to help plan ahead for, to schedule these things as they come in, and when they feel like you're on their side and you're not just trying to, invoice them, you're right in business with them together, and you're making plans and you're forecasting, expenses. I can go into a fleet and we can get a fleet report from them, and then I can come back and tell them what they're going to spend all year on preventative maintenance. And I can get, their maintenance records and how much you've been spending on tires. And I can start to forecast that. And then I can go to fleets that I do this for, and I can show them how I've taken them from, a high cost down to a lower cost with, no surprises, or very few breakdowns.
It's interesting.
That's an easy sell.
Yep.
Yeah. Troy, that's very similar to the way we did it at the private fleet that I managed. We looked for somebody like you, or partnered with somebody like you, until we brought it in house, and then we basically hired you is what we did. But a guy like you, but that was the guarantee. What you're talking about is that, like, a true partnership. Like when you're saying managed and how this is forming, it's a true partnership. And when you establish that with a shop like yours, like TDI, we had these caps where, we were both motivated to not spend over 2 million this year, or we were both motivated for preventative maintenance to not get over a certain number this year. And it's by doing the work that you're talking about and the forecasting, it helps a large fleet, or it helps control costs, right? Like now I can put a budget together as a fleet manager and say it's 10 grand a month, and that prevents the 20 grand episode and the loss of an entire load or a customer. And it makes it very easy to budget. And then if you can get on a cadence like that, you're hitting on some things when you're referencing managing that's critical for a private fleet to have those costs under control. Otherwise, they have issues, financial issues, right? As they're rubbing pennies trying to make dimes.
Yeah, and that's not good for anybody.
Right.
That's definitely not good for the shop. If the fleet is struggling.
Right. You want them as healthy as you are as a shop owner. So if they're healthy and they're making money, and you dropping a little bit more money to the bottom line because you got their fleet costs under control, you're hitting these caps or these thresholds where you won't go over this maintenance threshold or this cap. It changes it to a partnership that's being managed in a managed relationship. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. And just then tracking, the full day allows us to if I write up 10 items, but 3 of them aren't mission critical items, Full Bay lets us set those repairs aside, and then we don't forget or lose them. They're there for us, and we can plan for that repair. We can build that service order out and schedule that equipment for the future date. So, we don't forget it, or we can, if we're ahead on the budget, we can go, hey, we'd like to, let's catch up on all this, and that's going to make the next quarter better for you. Mm-hmm. And so, that's what I mean in the sense of managing,
Hey, Troy, what we've been talking about is, it's one of the key distinctions between a commercial repair shop and, say, a retail repair shop where people would take their personal vehicle to get fixed, right? Because those repair shops are more transactional based. They're not, maybe some of the more advanced ones are tracking some PMs for their customers, but really there's not a huge demand from like the general population. And so retail repair shops are very reactive and transactional, but so many of the concepts are the same. Would you ever, or have you ever seen this? Would you ever recommend one of these retail repair shops to start taking on some commercial work? Maybe start hiring some diesel techs that can do that and so forth. Do you think there's a bridge there where somebody running a retail shop could kind of morph themselves over time into doing more commercial work, or is it just too far, too big of a gap?
I think the successful ones do it. I mean, if you look at Firestone, they're probably one of the largest automotive retail organizations in America, and they do tons of fleet work. If you've got a fleet of cars, you have a Firestone commercial fleet account. And so I know Firestone does it. Christian Brothers here in Texas, I don't know where, they may be all over. I know you see fleet vehicles there all the time. So there's a lot of, you would think, mostly a retail outlet of Pep Boys. I think they do. You can get a fleet contract. But I don't believe they're doing heavy duty.
They're doing white fleet, the light duty.
I don't know
vehicles.
too many. Yeah, they're, maybe a 1-ton pickup might be the biggest vehicle.
Yeah,
they're doing. So I don't know. I don't know much retail in heavy duty. There's just not. The customer's different.
But at the end of the day, they're, even though it's a light duty fleet that they're servicing, what you're talking about still applies. Maybe not quite as much, because the heavy duty vehicles are tearing themselves apart through daily operation, whereas those light duty vehicles are maybe more hardy, because they're not carrying, 80,000 pound loads and so forth. So maybe it doesn't quite translate.
Well, there's a lot to learn though from these retail outlets, and not just, Christian Brothers. I had to use them one time when I was in Austin, and I was completely impressed with their process. And we took some things we learned from them and applied them to our business. And, Quick Trip is much to be admired, their process and how they treat their employees. And we learned a lot from them and applied it to our HR and what we do, with our own employees. So there's so much to learn from other successful businesses in different industries. And a lot of it's not being applied into our industry for sure.
So for commercial repair, working on these commercial vehicles, medium to heavy duty vehicles, the play is you gotta get a close relationship with your customers and take over or help them at least with the tracking of their PMs and making recommendations on changes to be made, so on and so forth. That's the play.
It is the play, and to and unburden them with that so they can run their company. But you have to prove to them that you're going to do it, and so it's a daily thing, and it takes a lot of effort to follow a lot of the pieces of equipment and make sure that you're doing everything that you sold to them that you said you were going to do. And I will tell you, without good shop software, it's impossible. It was, before we met y'all, we were horrible at it. I did it on spreadsheets, and it was tedious, and nobody liked to do it.
Great to hear. Glad we could help. And we have to continue working every day to keep doing that, just making it better and better. And there's a lot of work to be done. And by the way, Troy, I know you guys are into motocross. Are you guys still doing that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We actually, we did it yesterday. So yeah, we're still active racing in our amateur circuits here.
That's cool. And you're not working, you don't have a service truck anymore. Obviously Steve doesn't either. Are you guys generally working on the business these days versus in, or how's that looking?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've been able to, turn our focus, from, the daily, just chasing invoices and chasing receivables, and, to operational efficiencies, or, Steve's he focuses on the CFO side, and I do operations and meet customers, and that's what I like to do. And I will tell you, before Full Bay, it was just, we wouldn't have been able to grow without that software. We wouldn't have been able to be the size we're at. It was hectic, and we've probably doubled our size since we've had the software. So it's been a key in helping us provide a higher level of service to the customers with considerable less effort.
That's awesome. It's gratifying to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to hear you say that, considering I was the one that chased you down and was the annoying person on the phone trying to get you to demo. So it's nice to hear that it worked out.
I like how you embrace it too, the workflow. It's, when you reference process, and one of the things that we have, like a lot of folks will look for invoicing software. They just want to produce that invoicing, and that's it, the end. But that workflow and having a process and process improvement, everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction, following the same kind of format. And I agree that a software has to have a workflow to it that keeps everybody going in the same direction. Otherwise, you could just fall into an invoicing trap, right? Where that's all your software does, and that's not going to help you grow your business.
Well, you end up with a lot of invoices that the customer is unaware of, that instead of $600, it's $800. And now you're in a discussion.
You're right.
With that customer. But so with Full Bay, if you stay in that process, it's just all that stuff goes away.
Protects
the customer's always aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Protects the owner.
So
protects
we
your
preach
interests.
it. Yeah. We're a Full Bay shop, and we live in Full Bay, and we stay in Full Bay, and that's why I preach it.
That's awesome.
Anytime we have a problem, it's because we've left our process, the process that's inside the Full Bay software. Whenever something happens, there's an issue. What happened? Oh, well, we did this, and we weren't in, we left the procedure and skipped something. It's always the case. And when we stick to that process, we don't have problems, zero problems.
Awesome. Well, that's a great way to end. Troy, I really appreciate your time. And hope to speak to you soon. See you soon once this pandemic's over. I guess it's okay. And it's over in Texas now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think it's over. I got a haircut today. They made me wear a mask, but it's pretty much, we're ready for it to be over here.
Yeah. Crossing our fingers. Thanks a lot, Troy.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Diesel Stories Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and check out dieselstories.com for more episodes.